Welcome to another episode of PPL Pod. I want you to picture something for a second. Imagine a young artist. She's broke, living in a tiny apartment on New York's Lower East Side.
Right. Totally unglamorous.
Exactly. She's dabbling in drugs. She's deeply embedded in this gritty, underground party scene. It's just a world of peeling paint, sticky club floors, scraped knees.
Yeah, a rough environment.
And from that tiny, struggling vantage point, she makes a very strange decision. She decides to write an entire, cohesive album about the glamorous, wealthy, untouchable lifestyle of the rich and famous.
I mean, it is a massive contradiction right from the jump. You're literally looking up from the gutter and writing these absolute anthems about the penthouse.
It's wild.
It really shouldn't work. Like, on paper, it should sound like a complete joke.
And yet, not only did she write about it, she completely embodied it, wearing the aesthetic like armor. Today, our deep dive is focusing on Lady Gaga's 2008 debut studio album, The Fame.
It's such a massive record.
We are going to explore how an album built entirely on the illusion of fame ended up fundamentally rewriting the reality of 21st century pop music and completely changed the trajectory of electronic dance music along the way.
We need to set the mission here right at the top, though, because we are not just doing a nostalgic look back at a track list.
Right, it's much bigger than that.
Way bigger. We are exploring how a young, completely unknown artist used a combination of music, theater, and sheer undeniable willpower to invite everyone into this concept she called shareable fame. She didn't just drop a CB and hope for radio play. She engineered an entire pop art movement from the ground up.
Okay, let's unpack this, because when you hear the premise out loud, a broke artist singing about being rich and famous, it sounds like sheer delusion. Was this just the ultimate musical version of fake it till you make it?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, it was actually much deeper than just faking it. It was a philosophical stance.
Oh, so.
Well, Gaga spent 2.5 years working on this album, right, grinding her way through the New York underground club scene. And her core ethos, her overarching mission, was to prove that pop culture is high art.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, she fundamentally believed that it shouldn't be considered uncool or shallow to embrace pop culture.
Which was a massive uphill battle at the time.
Yeah.
We have to remember the mid to late 2000s landscape. Like, indie sleaze and rock were very much the currency of cool.
You had to look like you didn't care.
Exactly. Caring too much, putting on a highly choreographed show, or openly trying to be a massive, shiny pop star was almost seen as selling out before you even started your career.
And that was exactly the culture she was rebelling against. She flipped that script entirely.
Yeah.
But to your point about faking it, and this is crucial, she didn't view her version of fame as an exclusive gated community. She called it a shareable fame.
An open invitation.
Exactly. She wanted listeners to feel like they were already part of the lifestyle. Take a track like Beautiful, Dirty, Rich. That song perfectly encapsulated her time of self-discovery on the Lower East Side.
It's such a gritty song.
It served as a thesis statement for the whole record, really. You didn't actually need money to feel like a star. Fame, in her eyes, wasn't a bank balance. It was a mindset, an inner aura you project to the world.
It essentially democratizes the idea of celebrity. It says, you listening to this in your beat-up Honda Civic, you can be beautiful, dirty, and rich right now. It's a posture.
Absolutely.
But here is my pushback. Philosophy is great, but without the musical hooks to carry it, it's just an academic paper. Nobody is dancing to a thesis statement. So how did she translate that abstract attitude into actual sheet music and production?
Well, that is where the sonic construction comes in. She co-crafted these tracks with producers like Redone, Martin Kierszenbaum, and Rob Fusaro.
Redone was huge for her.
Oh, totally foundational. The sound they built was a relentless blend of electropop, synth pop, and dance pop, but heavily dripping with 1980s influences. They didn't just write pop songs, they built sonic environments.
Let's look at the mechanics of that environment.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't just breezy pop. You have these clipped, aggressive marching beats, these really sharp sawing electronic synthesizers, and dark disco rhythms mixed with R&B-infused drum patterns.
Let's use the lead single, Just Dance, as the perfect example of this architecture.
Right. On the surface, if you just listen casually while you're at a party, it sounds like a pure, chaotic anthem about being totally intoxicated at a club.
Like the lyrics, I love this record, baby, but I can't see straight anymore.
Exactly. But here's a detail that totally recontextualizes the song. Gaga actually intended it as a joyous, heart-themed track, specifically for people going through incredibly tough times in their lives.
Which gives it this beautiful, almost invisible underlying melancholy. It's escapism, yes, but it's an empathetic escapism.
Wow.
The relentless beat isn't just there to make you move, it's there to help you outrun whatever is chasing you. You're dancing to forget the pain. That's why the chords have that slight dark edge to them.
And it resonated globally. It was a monster hit. Though a quick, almost unbelievable piece of trivia for you, it actually lost the Grammy for Best Dance Recording that year.
Wait, really? What did it lose to?
It lost to Daft Punk's Harder, Better, Faster, Stronger.
Oh, wow. Well, honestly, if you have to lose a Grammy, losing to Daft Punk is a pretty elite club to be in.
Right. I don't think she was losing any sleep over it anyway. Her process was so incredibly fast and instinctual, she was already miles ahead.
She was actively pulling inspiration from her immediate visceral environment.
I am so glad you brought up her instincts, because we have to talk about Love Game.
Ah, yes, the birth of the disco stick.
The origin of that hook is just staggering to me. She wrote that infamous disco stick hook in 4 minutes. 4 minutes.
That's just absurd.
And she wrote it immediately after being intensely sexually attracted to a stranger she saw in a nightclub. She literally walked up to him and said, "I want to ride on your disco stick," and then turned around, walked away, and built a massive global dance hit out of that one impulsive phrase.
It just highlights her ability to distill a raw, provocative, fleeting moment into a permanent pop structure. But she wasn't just pulling from club culture, she was actively trying to build bridges to other subcultures, particularly rock history.
Like the track Boys, Boys, Boys.
Exactly. That one was explicitly meant to be the female answer to Mötley Crüe's Girls, Girls, Girls. She wanted a track that hard rock fans could put on and actually enjoy without feeling like they were compromising their tastes.
She's blending these usual isolated subcultures like club kids, rock fans, pure pop listeners, all into one massive audience.
She even placed a piano ballad right in the middle of all this electronics. Brown Eyes, which she openly stated was inspired by Queen.
It's so different from the rest of the album.
It was arguably the most vulnerable song on the record, delivered with this raw, defiant vocal tone that contrasted all the process synths. And on the title track, The Fame, you can hear these distinct guitar riffs that are heavily reminiscent of David Bowie.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though, because you've got an album primarily detailing drinking, partying, boys, and the paparazzi. Most albums with that thematic focus fade away the second the club turns the lights on.
Very true.
So how does a project so heavily focused on surface-level, hedonistic partying manage to have such incredible staying power? Why are we still studying it?
This raises an important question, and the answer is synthesis. The staying power comes from deeply personal, incredibly nuanced songwriting hiding in plain sight. It's concealed right beneath those massive repetitive hooks.
It's like a hologram. From a distance, it's this shiny, two-dimensional, glamorous projection of a party girl. But when you step closer and look at how the light is being bent, you realize it's being projected by a very dark, complex machine built out of personal trauma, identity struggles, and relentless ambition.
That is the perfect way to visualize it. Let's break down Poker Face using that exact lens. It has that robotic, undeniably catchy hook that gets stuck in your head for days. Right. On the shiny surface, it's about sexual innuendo, teasing, and boyfriends who like to gamble. But Gaga later revealed the song was actually exploring her personal experience with bisexuality.
I had no idea about that.
Yeah. The Poker Face was her hiding the fact that she was actively fantasizing about women while she was physically having sex with men.
Wow, that completely changes the architecture of the song. It's no longer just a cheeky club anthem. It's an undertone of deep confusion about love, sex, and hidden identity, all wrapped up in a dark, synth-heavy banger. It's a confession disguised as a party.
And musically, she and Redone were layering history into it. According to the BBC, that famous stuttering "Mama Mama" hook is actually sampled directly from Boney M's 1977 hit Ma Baker.
Oh, that's wild. They were weaving 1970s disco history, deeply personal sexual identity struggles, and cutting-edge 2008 synth production into a single, cohesive radio track.
Exactly. So the music is incredibly dense once you peel back the layers.
But I have to admit, if I was just listening to the CD in my room back then, I might have missed all that subtext. The music alone wasn't enough to convey the whole message, was it?
Not at all. And Gaga knew that. She strongly believed that pop music at the time was desperately missing something crucial, which is the combination of visual imagery and intense theatrics. You couldn't just hear the lifestyle. She felt she had to put the lifestyle right in front of your face, violently if necessary.
Which brings us to the performance art aspect, and arguably one of the most defining moments in modern pop history. The 2009 MTV Video Music Awards.
Oh, it was a genuine cultural reset.
I remember watching it and being genuinely unsettled. She performs Paparazzi. Now, for context, Paparazzi is a sultry track inspired by her own hunger for fame and love, asking the listener if you can actually have both while dealing with the sheer toxicity of enticing the media.
A heavy theme for an MTV show.
Very. So you're the viewer at home. You expect standard MTV fare, some backup dancers, a sparkly outfit, maybe some pyrotechnics. Instead, she gives you a psychological horror short film.
Let's paint the picture for the listener because the details really matter here.
So she starts out with this intense, avant-garde, almost aggressive, choreographed dancing. She plays the piano with her heel.
Iconic.
And then, as the song builds to its massive orchestral climax, theatrical blood starts pouring and dripping down her torso right from her ribcage. Her dancers surround her in a frenzy, and it ends with Gaga hung completely lifeless above the stage. One arm is dangling, blood is smeared all over her face and chest, her eyes are blank, and all the while, camera flashes are going off wildly in the background.
What's fascinating here is that this specific performance is widely considered the exact moment she proved to the world she was a true artist. She wasn't just a superficial pop star pushing a catchy chorus.
It was so shocking.
By bleeding to death for the cameras, she was commenting on the destructive nature of the very fame she was actively chasing. It was macabre, it was shocking, and it forced the industry to realize they were dealing with a provocateur.
And she didn't just save that for award shows. She took that exact philosophy on the road. Her first headlining tour, the Fame Ball Tour, wasn't designed as a standard concert. She conceived it as a traveling museum show.
She was heavily inspired by Andy Warhol's pop performance art concepts, the idea that repetition, imagery, and the spectacle itself are the art.
Exactly. She wanted minimal variations between the venues, so the art remained pure, but the staging was highly conceptual. And the fashion. This was the era where she appeared on stage wearing a dress made entirely out of plastic bubbles.
It wasn't just about making sure her vocals sounded good. It was a total visual assault on the audience in the best way possible.
It really was.
She even used that platform to push social boundaries. She premiered an unreleased song on that tour called Future Love, which she openly described to the audience as an endorsement for same-sex marriage. She was leveraging the massive spectacle to push cultural conversations forward in real time.
So with all this overwhelming sensory explosion, the blood, the Warhol references, the bubble dresses, the deep synth beats, how did the critics actually react in the moment?
Yeah.
Because looking back from where we are now, it feels like this monolithic, unstoppable success. Was her genius obvious to them right away?
The nuance here is really important and frankly hilarious in hindsight. While the album currently sits at a respectable 71 on Metacritic, it was by no means universally beloved upon release. It was intensely divisive. Half the world thought she was a visionary genius, and the other half thought she was an absolute joke.
A 71 seems shockingly low for an album that effectively defined an entire generation of music.
It does, but you have to look at the competing interpretations. On one side, you had The Guardian, which clearly saw the vision. They praised the incredibly addictive melodies and predicted it would be huge. Entertainment Weekly got it too, calling it exhaustingly pure in its vision.
Okay, so some got it.
But then you had fierce, almost angry pushback. Slant magazine was brutal. They called the lyrics nonsensical drivel and described her singing as uneven at best.
It's amazing how wrong history can prove you.
It gets worse. The Washington Post criticized it for lacking originality. Even some of the positive reviews were backhanded. MSN Music called it shallowness at its most principled. Critics literally couldn't decide if she was a high-concept genius satirizing pop culture or just a trashy flash-in-the-pan club act.
But the public made their choice incredibly quickly, and they completely drowned out the critics. Despite the critical pushback, the commercial dominance was undeniable. I want to throw some stats at you because they are hard to wrap your head around. Over 4.9 million copies sold in the U.S. alone. It went multi-platinum or diamond in practically every single country on Earth.
Insane numbers.
But this is the stat that always gets me. It held the #1 spot on the Billboard Dance Electronic Albums chart for a record-breaking 193 non-consecutive weeks.
That is nearly 4 accumulated years at #1. It's statistically unprecedented.
So what does this all mean? Did she just get incredibly lucky with her timing? Because the fame drops right in the middle of the late 2000s global financial crash. The world is bleeding money, people are losing their homes, banks are collapsing, and here comes Lady Gaga offering this high times, glamorous escapism. Was it just the right album at the absolute worst, most miserable time?
Timing is absolutely a factor. You can't ignore the socioeconomic backdrop. The fame definitely helped kickstart the era of what cultural critics now call recession pop.
Right.
You saw this entire wave of artists like Keisha and Katy Perry following right behind her, providing this bright, glittery, carefree escapism when the real world was incredibly grim. But to reduce Gaga's success to just lucky timing ignores the massive structural shift she forced onto the music industry.
I want to dig into that. When you say structural shift, what exactly did she break and rebuild?
She changed the fundamental DNA of what program directors allowed on the radio. Before the fame, American pop radio was heavily dominated by mid-tempo R&B and hip-hop. If you turn on the radio, you heard Usher, Neo, maybe some pop punk. Gaga essentially forced four-on-the-floor electronic dance music back into the mainstream.
For those who might not know the term, four on the floor is that relentless, driving club beat. It's a kick drum hitting on every single beat. 1, 2, 3, 4. It leaves no empty space. It just propels you forward. Dropping that onto 2008 radio must have sounded like an alien invasion.
It did. Zane Lowe, the famous radio personality, once shared a conversation where he noted that she almost single-handedly put four on the floor back on American radio when absolutely nothing resembling it was charting. It was a massive risk.
And it paid off.
The producer Kelvin Harris backed this up completely. He pointed out that industry executives were so nervous about the electronic sound that they actually tried to make a hip-hop version of Poker Face for radio just in case the original failed. But it was the 4/4 electronic club version that hit, and it just went, in his words, ridiculous.
She kicked down the door for the massive EDM boom of the 2010s. DJ Tommy Sunshine even said there wouldn't be a David Guetta top 10 hit or certain Black Eyed Peas records if it wasn't for the fame paving the runway. She essentially retrained the public's ear.
She exposed the masses to pure dance music, and what's truly remarkable is her absolute unshakable confidence in her own vision during this chaotic transition. Once the album exploded, her label, Interscope, wanted her to take the safe, predictable route. They wanted her to just release Boys, Boys, Boys as the next single to prolong the album's success and keep the money rolling in.
Milk the cow, play it safe, don't rock the boat.
Exactly the standard industry playbook. But Gaga flat out refused. She believed so fiercely in the new material she was writing while touring the world. She pushed back hard against the label executives, which ultimately led to the 2009 reissue, The Fame Monster.
Which was conceptually a complete 180-degree turn.
It was. She described the two albums as yin and yang. Where The Fame was about the shiny, aspirational, glamorous illusion of celebrity, The Fame Monster represented the darker, terrifying reality of her actual experience with it. She expressed that new reality through these gothic, horrific monster metaphors.
Wow.
She even fought her record company over the album cover. They wanted a pretty pop star photo. She demanded a very dark gothic look shot by Hedy Slimane because she knew exactly what she wanted to say about the beast she had just unleashed.
She sang about wanting the paparazzi. She summoned them through sheer force of will. And then when they arrived, she realized they have very sharp teeth.
That is the tragic beauty of the entire era.
It really brings us full circle to where we started. The ultimate irony of The Fame is that an album created by a completely unknown, broke artist who was basically just playing dress up as a wealthy, untouchable pop star became a literal self-fulfilling prophecy.
It didn't just predict her personal fame, it completely redesigned the music industry's standard for modern pop superstardom. She proved that you couldn't just stand there in jeans and sing a catchy chorus anymore. You needed a narrative. You needed a visual identity. You needed a provocation.
It leaves me with this thought. If you build an illusion so strong that the world actually steps inside it and makes it real, what happens to everyone who comes after you? By turning fame into this curated, extreme, high-concept performance art, Gaga essentially killed off the idea of the relatable, everyday pop star.
Yeah, she definitely did.
She set a new standard that forces almost every artist today to constantly reinvent themselves as a character, to have eras, to be larger than life. She proved that true power isn't about what you own. It's about what you can make people believe. But in doing so, she might have made it impossible for a pop star to ever just be normal again. Thanks for listening to PPL Pod. Keep tuning in for more stories worth knowing.